Kirk, you're on mute, I believe, Kirk.
Sorry, my bad. I don't know why that does that. But anyways, welcome to the Scoop World Order. Appreciate you guys being on here. We have a superstar we're going to be talking about who is from South Florida. Is he the next Caleb Williams? That's who he was compared to at camp the other day. Started in varsity as an eighth grader. Chip Kelly thinks he's a superstar. This is going to be a really interesting recruit because he's the best player in the country, but he's very young. And we have his film. And it's interesting watching an eighth grader play varsity, but that is something that is possible in South Florida. So we're going to break him down. Some other moves have been going on in camp and some buzz around the team and their workouts. With that being said, as always, we appreciate you guys being a part of this program each and every night. Again, a huge show. This thing is growing like crazy. Thank you to this. This is our biggest month we've ever had in or out of season. So thank you for that. Again, appreciate the likes. Also clicking subscribe and clicking that little alert bell. It gives you an alert every time we go live, so you guys never miss a show. This will be a huge show tonight because you guys make it one. A great sports night tonight. Team USA is playing Brazil in a soccer friendly, and obviously the NBA Finals with the Mavericks and Celtics will be a great game. So get you guys out of here kind of in concurrence with that game tipping off. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my good friend at Nevadabuck. Nevada, the camp talent is really down this year. But there are some guys that are really special players. Neiman Lawrence is a different level kid. He's a kid that you look at his profile and it's just a silhouette. I mean, you see class of 28, he's entering his freshman year. But it's different in South Florida because in the state of Florida, as an eighth grader, if you're exceptional, you can play varsity football. And he was an eighth grade starter on the varsity team at a school called Ransom Everglades. Ransom Everglades is probably, if it's not the richest school in South Florida, it's one of them. It is kind of where the who's who send their kids, but they're trying to develop their athletic profile similar to American Heritage, which is where Ennis hails from, and Fletcher, who ended up going to the Canes. But Neiman Lawrence was here, and he is a special cat. He got offered very early. He got offered after camp yesterday. Here he is with Ryan Day. Again, hasn't started his freshman year yet, but I look at these kids differently when they're from South Florida, and he actually played varsity. So I mean, he's not just a kid who only played eighth grade football. Like in Ohio, that's not an option. You're only in eighth. You can't play JV as an eighth grader. But in Florida, you can play varsity. And again, this is a kid that Caleb Williams is who I was told he reminds people of in terms of his throwing ability, his upside, his exceptional athleticism and speed. But he really tore it up at camp. I think he's got the highest NFL ceiling of anyone we've seen at camp in years. Because he's a guy that literally is probably the best player in his entire class, and he's a quarterback. And the fact that he's probably the best quarterback at camp this year, and he's going to freshman year, kind of says everything you need to know. But what are your thoughts on him? Because again, I think that we're the first school to go on him, so which means he's camping at Bama. I think today, so I'm sure Bama will offer him. But as soon as Ohio State goes, then it's time for Bama to offer Georgia to get a skin in the game. And plus, I think that a lot of coaches do is if there's a guy who is exceptional at a position, at developing and evaluating a position, if they go on a guy, it's like every other school just tails him. Like if Nick Saban offered a safety, then we would, like, Urban Meyer would offer him without even looking at his film. Because, if Saban's going on, like, with a real offer, then we're going on. So, if Friday offers a quarterback, especially when this young, he'll have Bama and Georgia by the end of the week, if I had to place a bet. But your thoughts, Nevada, on us going on an eighth grader?
Well, look, when I first heard his name, the first thing you do is you go down to our South Florida Express guys, down to South Florida, the kids that have actually seen him play, and ask about him. And because my opinion on this doesn't really matter. Their opinion on it, super relevant, super on point. They've seen it all. We've gone through the list of quarterbacks that have come through there. You're talking about Geno Smith, Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, they've seen all the great players, all the great wide receivers, all the great defensive backs, all the great skill players. They say he's the best quarterback they've ever had. And so when they say that, that gets my attention because you're talking about a who's who of skill positions from a who's who in the skill position state. They say this kid could end up being the best one of them all. So that certainly got my attention. I know that's the kind of endorsement that gets Ryan Day's attention. And then when he goes, He goes to the camp and he throws the ball so effortlessly. The ball just kind of explodes out of his hand. When you want to talk about arm talent, this kid has got it all. He's got athleticism in abundance, so he's not just a statue back there. He can move around. He's the prototype of what you want in a quarterback in the year 2024. And as you said, he played varsity football as an eighth grader, which is absolutely crazy at any level, let alone the level of Florida high school football that he's playing. So, with all those types of ringing endorsements, we don't like to spend a lot of time on 28 kids in this thing, but this is a kid that you're probably going to want to pay attention to because you're probably going to be hearing an awful lot about him in the future, and probably an awful lot of him in relation to his relationship with Ohio State, because this is, if you're betting the field and you're saying, who am I going to pick to see where this kid's going to end up? It'd be hard to bet against the Buckeyes. It's a school he likes. It's a school he has an affinity to. It's the first mover on him from a program that's got strong Ohio State ties. So this could be a name that we're all very familiar with in the future. But great looking player, great looking prospect.
Well, and the funny thing is, this is like the third or fourth episode we've done talking about him. Like, I've shown this film because I love their stadium because it literally is right on the Everglades. Like, you see like the mangroves. Like, if you run 10 yards out of bounds, you go right into the mangrove trees and you can go right into getting eaten by an alligator. But again, this is why you guys watch Buckeye Scoop, because Scoop had it first. I mean, we literally broke this kid down, I think 3 months ago. It was one of our PHENOM episodes. And, there's some people that are like, oh, you're breaking down eighth grade. But I'm like, yeah, like he played varsity football as an eighth grader. It's like, it'd be like talking about like LeBron James before he hit, freshman year at St. V. Like, if he's dominating the AAU circuit as an eighth grader and he's 6'7" as an eighth grader and he's, the most athletic kid in the history of the planet, then yeah, you're going to talk about him. But this kid, we talked about him. And again, when you talk to Brett Getz and Ricky and the guys that are down at SFE, like, you can't snow them over. They're really sharp guys. They're guys that have been, they've been around Amari Cooper and, Zay Flowers and Geno Smith and guys that are literal first round picks, guys that have made, I say this all the time, they've made hundreds of millions of dollars. So, this isn't like this is the first, sometimes you get a high school coach or something and it's the first guy they've ever seen who's like this. And they just like to, they're not used to it. But like with SFE, man, I mean, they've had in the last like 4 or 5 years, they've had Brandon Ennis, JJ Smith, obviously I say Amari Cooper because he's on your 8 or 9 or 10 in the league and $100 million contract, whatever he's got. So I just, when these guys say that this guy is different, then I pay attention. And then they also had, the eighth grade speedster wide receiver who also, he'd already been offered at IMG by Brent Hartline, and they said he's a freak. We broke him down. So, it's kind of fun to say, hey, this is kind of like this is who's next on the Ohio State radar, because, Tavion St. Clair is awesome, but we've done 50 shows about him. So, I don't know how much more we can talk about him. So it's always nice to kind of build up the coffers of who you guys could be watching in the horseshoe in 4 years. Because this is the kind of kid that you get this kid to commit, man. And again, he won't commit for, a couple of years, maybe a year and a half, whatever. But once he jumps in, I mean, this is a game changer type of dude. This guy will be not just the best quarterback in this class, he could be the best player in the class. And he's only going to get bigger and stronger and more fluid. And again, like this is eighth grade varsity highlights. That's not a typo. So special kid. We got a couple super chats coming in. Nevada, the camps they're dragging on. They had a 7-on-7 today, and the 7-on-7s aren't great at Ohio State because it's just like it's high school teams, so very minimal prospects at it. I don't think there was a single offensive lineman of note that camped yesterday. It's been pretty dry. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when they have a whole day, and we have Bill Greene and Joe Drame at camp standing there all day, and they didn't say the name of a single offensive lineman. I'm like, that's pretty dry. What are your thoughts on camps? Are they still important for upperclassmen? Is it more of a thing where you develop these younger guys? Is it more of a tutoring session for guys that are committed, like Tavion St. Clair and some committed guys that are working out at camps? Like, what are your takes on camps now? Because I just think that there's just with the summer recruiting visits now, the summer official visits, like I just don't see big time seniors camping anymore, like they used to. But I'd love your thoughts on that because I think it's been such a shift over the last 3 years where camps they're not irrelevant, but they're pretty close now. But I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about camps, but first I want you to answer me a question about on a topic that you know a little bit about called Ohio offensive linemen, because Nevadabuck has been in the school of, hey, let's just take the top 3 or 4 kids in the state of Ohio and we'll make do. We'll ride it out. We'll play it out. We'll go. And Ohio State has made a decided move now to go national on offensive line recruiting. You look at all the offers, all the guys that they're in on, everything that's coming together for the 2025 class, with the exception of Carter Lowe. It's national kids, or at least out of Ohio kids. And when you talk about, maybe having an Ohio line class with 1 kid in it, and then you're looking in the future, you're not seeing, a bunch of Ohio kids in there. What do you think that is? What do you attribute that to, or do you attribute that is that just happenstance? Is that just bad luck? Is that just a paucity? What do you think that's about?
Well, I think it is. I think it's a lot of luck, honestly. I mean, I think that because next year's offensive line, especially the tackle crop, is really good. There's kids from up northeast Ohio that are potentially Ohio State kids if they keep working. I just think you're kind of at the mercy because, like, if a Paris Johnson happens to be living in Ohio and comes through the ranks, then you're straight. Honestly, having Carter Lowe this year is great. I don't know if there's 4 offensive linemen that are major. I'm talking like Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State level kids because I don't see them. I mean, I love the Cook kid from Westerville, but he's going to Louisville, so I mean that's not. It's not like he's going to Michigan and we're deciding not to take him. So it's because usually like if Michigan offers, then you gotta I mean when Michigan offers a kid in Ohio, you got to really make sure that you're not missing anything because if you lose a kid to Michigan, he ends up becoming an All-American, then you look like a total douchebag. I mean, that kind of happened with Jake Butt. Like Jake Butt was a kid that we whiffed on, ended up winning the Mackey Award. He's from Pickerington. He was teammates with Elfline. I loved the kid, but we didn't go on him. And he was a great player at Michigan. And again, I don't know if you could win the Mackey at Ohio State because we don't throw to the tight end enough. But I think it's a lot of luck. I think that like when we went on kids, God, the one year. We took the worst recruiting class of all time, and we had like 3 or 4 kids from Ohio, and they all stunk. Chris Carter, Tommy Brown. We had Brian Bobeck was a nice kid, but he was from I think Illinois or something. He couldn't play.
Antonio
Underwood. Again, nice kids, just bad football players. And again, that's not. I'm not being a meanie, but you can check the resumes. Like when you take an entire class and they make 1 career start out of like 5 kids. That I can't even explain how bad that is. I mean, you could just blindly throw darts at kids at camp and probably find something better than that. But, I think that you just gotta, you gotta kind of go where the talent is. I mean, it's the same thing like wide receivers. Like we took Jaden Ballard, but I don't know if we'll ever take another wide receiver from Ohio. I mean, we might take 1, but now we take 4 or 5. They're from Texas and Florida and California and everywhere else. But I think that it's just you're kind of at the luck of the draw. Like next year, we could take like 3 Ohio kids. There's some really good kids. Kid at Avon Lake, kid at Hoban. As long as they develop and they stay healthy and they keep getting bigger and stronger, like I think those would be great guys. And they're guys that have been offered by Ohio State. So I think, to me, if you're a junior and you've already been offered by Ohio State, I don't see any reason why you go to camp because I don't think that it can help you. I think it can only hurt you. I would just commit and then I would get on the. Hey, I'll come do the individual workout. And again, it's not because I'm not competitive, but I just think that, why would you give Ohio State any reason to doubt you by showing up to camp and sucking, laying an egg? And, we saw some kids come up here this week that were fringe guys that if they would have blown it out at camp, they potentially got an offer, and they didn't do well. They were actually terrible in the O-line one-on-one drills. Because, like, really the only drill they evaluate is the one-on-one pass rush. And if you get shredded in that, and again, it's a totally unfair drill. Again, I always say it's like if you evaluated a pitcher in baseball off of how well he could throw like batting practice or a home run derby, like that's kind of what like that drill is. So it's like, okay, well the pitcher gave up 17 home runs because he's you're telling him to groove it down the middle, and Mark McGuire's hitting it into the third deck of the stadium. Like that's what like those drills are because they're so unrealistic. And they honestly really tick me off because I watch these drills and I watch these kids like for one they don't help each other. You know when the guard dives out of the way in a one-on-one pass pro and just doesn't I mean the guard should never move. He should just stand there and act like an idiot because then when these defensive ends do these inside moves they would run right into the guard because those are the most unrealistic moves in the history of football. Like those don't exist in real football, but in these camps, man, I see these guys get beat inside and it drives me bonkers. I was like, guys, like if you're playing tackle, you should never get beat inside, ever, 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 ever. And I watch these guys set too deep and get beat inside, and it's almost it's comically bad, it's horrifically bad, and I don't know why they don't get told that. But again, that's just me. What do I know? I mean, I gave up one sack my last year, and it was versus a guy that was third overall in the draft. So that was it. The year, I mean, I think my last 3 years I gave up like 3 sacks in like 1,000 snaps. So what do I know about pass blocking? But just my opinion. But I think that you're kind of at the mercy because like if you got a year where you got Muhort and Lindsley and you can get Norwell the next year, then oh yeah, absolutely. And again, sometimes if you just grind him into mincemeat and you can turn Daryl Bolden into something and Jacoby. If Jacoby was a tough kid, but we happened to just hit it just right and we won it with an all Ohio line. We had Taylor Decker. I mean, Taylor Decker's a first round pick. Like I don't know who that first round pick is in the state of Ohio this year. I mean, it could be Carter. I mean, if Carter develops, but being a first round pick at tackles, really hard to do. I mean, we've had 2 of them since Orlando Pace was in '97, so it's been a long time. So, but that's just my opinion. Again, I like the idea of it. I like being Ohio centric, but I just think that our talent's down from where it was. I mean, it's just over the last 20 years, our talent has fallen off a cliff. From again, I go back to the '02 class where like the 80% of the class was from Ohio, and you had first round picks and a Heisman Trophy winner, and you had AJ, you had Troy Smith, you had Mangold. I mean, you had first rounders in the O line, linebacker, Heisman winner at quarterback, Maurice Claret, who might have been the best player in the whole class, and obviously he had his 1 year. So it's wild, but I don't know. Like I said, I like our national approach, but like I said, the hardest part is those kids, they just don't understand the rivalry at all. They don't really care about it. And I think that that's been something that's hurt us over the last few years as we've gotten more national, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Well, I think it's a great point. I mean, I scratch my head, looking at, I understand why Ohio may have fallen behind on the skill positions with the lack of spring football, with the lack of 7-on-7. But it's not intuitive to me why, you know, why Ohio. I mean, it's not like the population has declined, and the population's it's gone up, albeit slower than other parts of the country. It's not like we're in decline and people. I mean, I'm mystified how you can go from a 2002 class that you said is legendary. I mean, I don't know how many of those guys ended up in the College Football Hall of Fame or will, but just a remarkable class to where we are now, where we're struggling to find 5, 6, 7 kids that are worthy enough in the entire state of Ohio. And maybe it is hit and miss. Maybe it just kind of comes and goes, and maybe some years are better than others. But it certainly seems like Ohio football has been kind of in a steady decline, and it's not for resources, it's not for lack of interest from the fans. So I'm not exactly sure why that's happening in Ohio. Is it happening at the younger ages? Are the younger programs, or more kids going away from football? Parents pulling them out of football? I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a something. And Ohio State's managing to recruit through it because they are such a strong national brand. But if they weren't, it would certainly be problematic because it's not as good as it once was.
I think that the youth sports thing is interesting because I think that there's been a really there's been a rise in some ancillary sports. Like I mean, hockey is exploded in Ohio since the Blue Jackets moved in. So there's a lot of hockey kids now. Lacrosse has eaten up, and I think that kind of the rise of travel sports over the last 25-ish years has depleted some football teams because kids, they have to specialize. Like they can't, again, everyone, every time you go to the draft and you go to, talk to high school or college coaches, oh, be a multi-sport athlete. Oh, go, play football and baseball and basketball and run track and do whatever. But it's like, with the way travel stuff is, like, I don't know how can you be a football player and you're going to miss all of football conditioning because you're at like a week long tournament for your baseball team, or you're playing now 7-on-7 football is legal. So how do you play baseball in the summer and then also travel on the weekends to OT7 and play for South Florida Express or some major 7-on-7 team? So I think that kids have more options. Again, I just look at, like, like schools in where I grew up in Canton. Like, I mean, there was never a lacrosse team. There's boys volleyball. There's hockey. There's all these things that never used to exist, just in high school. So again, that eats away a little bit of the talent of of the teams. Now, I'm not saying that eats up your offensive lineman, but it eats up a lot of other positions. And and frankly, I think that numbers are just down in football in general. I think that with the concussion stuff, people they didn't want to play it as much, which is fine. It's just more room for the guys that want to play. But it's just it's an interesting thing because like I said, when we were getting recruited, man, and even like through like when I was playing, I mean, most of our team was built from Ohio, and now it's kind of like the inverse. Like if our roster was 65% Ohio kids when I played, it's probably 30% Ohio kids now. Which again, it's kind of it's a shift in philosophy, and but again, you have to go get the best players because at the end of the day, if your job's in line, you better try to get the best guys you can to make your team as strong as possible. Got a couple super chats. Any other thoughts before we dig into some super chats? Excuse me.
No, it's interesting though to keep an eye on. It's interesting. We're going to start monitoring, class by class, and see, like you said, the future is kind of bright for offensive linemen in particular class. We've had some strong defensive back classes lately, but when you lose a Chris Henry out of there and he goes to Mater Dei, that that was a 5-star wide receiver from Ohio, but now he's no longer from Ohio. So good thing those Ohio State roots stay connected to a kid when he moves across the country. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch class by class how that develops.
Yeah, I think that our online class 6 year is pretty strong, so I'm actually pretty encouraged by that. And again, I think that's sort of the hard part when you're the line coach at Ohio State is. Said it a million times, but a lot of these big guys like to stay close to home. Go look at Georgia's O line and Bama's O line and Florida and Miami, and I mean unless they're big NIL kids like Samson Okunlowo from Jersey to Miami, a lot of them are from within 3 hours of campus, 4 hours. So and not only has Ohio fallen off tremendously, but Pennsylvania, like I mean we barely I don't think we pulled barely anybody from Pennsylvania. I mean we got McCord and Marvin Harrison, but that used to be like one of our top 4 states, along with Florida and Georgia. But now, like, I mean, Pennsylvania's fallen off worse than Ohio has, in my opinion, because we're not finding the stars from there like we used to. All right, let's get into a few of these super chats. Appreciate you, Blue Wolverine. How are you? Thank you for the 3. Hippo Scratch. I love these stupid emojis. These are hilarious. Hippo character in tactical gear does tactical flanking maneuver handgun gestures. I love the emojis that are written out, and I appreciate that because that is always a little comic relief on the show. Oh my God, Donnie, thank you for the 5. Love the content when it comes to OSU 2024. What are some lineups and concepts you think we will see? If you want maybe some X's and O's, Nevada OH. Let's you go first, Nevada. What are some things? We know that we love our 2 running back set with 2 first-round running backs, but what are some things that you think we will see with Chip Kelly and Matt Greene and all the new fun faces that are a part of what we're doing?
I think you're going to see more. You're going to see defensively. You're going to see more bare front. You're going to see more blitzing. You're going to see that kind of that 5-man line that they've been liking so much during the spring. We've talked about the faith that Knowles has gotten in that secondary unit and how he's not afraid to go man to man at all. So I think it's going to be it's going to be a more suffocating type of defense that's going to create more negative plays, more turnovers, in addition to still being able to cut down on the big plays. It's just going to be a dominating defensive unit. But I think it is going to be feature more blitzing. Which is a guilty pleasure of mine. So definitely looking forward to that and looking forward to seeing what they can dial up. Offensively, it's just going to be a diverse offense. It's the days of being able to stand there and point to where we're going with the ball before are done, guys. I'm just telling you, you're not going to be able to tell by formation, by down and distance where we're going with the ball, and that's a hallmark of Chip Kelly is the unpredictability, the constraint plays. Just when you think you've got it figured out what we're going to do, we're going to run something off of that you haven't seen before, and so it's going to be blitzing defensively, unpredictability offensively, and Ohio State's going to be a very tough out for teams. It's going to take a mighty effort, a lot of bad luck, maybe a few bad calls, and just about 19 karmic things happening to beat this team. And that's why I think Ohio State will be favored in every game, and I'll certainly be betting them in every game.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I think that we're going to see. I think we're going to see a little more max protections, some more heavy protections. I'm actually going to break one down right now because I think that it's kind of fun to see some of the stuff that Chip Kelly does. They love. I mean, Chip Kelly loves play action passes. He loves play fakes. He loves to, have a running play and a pass protection look pretty similar. Because again, that's a great way to get your guys loose. I think this is
no. Hold on. Before you get into that, you mean to tell me that if the defense does not know before the play whether it's going to be a pass or a run, that puts them at some sort of a disadvantage?
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of. Okay, got it. Just
Yeah.
checking because I had people telling me that when Michigan was cheating and they knew the signals and they knew it was a pass run, that didn't create any advantage. I was just wanted to be clear because it seemed to me to be an advantage, but I wanted to ask the old All-American what he thought about that. And
so I'll put this in layman terms for people because a lot of our constituencies they've played video games, they've played Madden or they've played Tecmo Bowl or something. So if I'm playing against you in Madden or Tecmo Bowl, and I've got my controller, you got your controller, and I have to tell you it's a run or a pass before every single play. It's a run or it's a pass. Just that. Let alone Michigan was saying run right, run left. I mean, you can see literally Connor Stone's mouthing it to the coordinator, run right, run right. I mean, we have the film. Like, you can read his lips, run right. Like, if I tell you I'm running the ball to the right and you're on Madden with your little Xbox controller and you pick, and you're like, you're running to the right? Really? So I can bring the linebacker off the edge and bring the corner off the edge, and then I can take control of the safety and run him over to the right. Like, you're telling me that's not the biggest advantage in the history of football? I mean, again, even the dumbest Michigan fans can be like, wow, that really would be a big advantage, wouldn't it? Again, like, any of you guys that have to use like deductive reasoning at any point, you're like, if you play like Clue and you know the room it was done in and the weapon it was done with, like, all you have to do is figure out which one of like the 6 or 8, or I think it's like 6 characters or whatever, 8 characters, 7 characters, whatever it is. There's 2, 4. I think there's 8 characters in Clue. I could be wrong. Or 6, something like that. But if you know the room and the weapon, like, all you have to do is figure out which one of the people did it. And if you have your cards and you've got 3 of the characters, then you're down to like 3 or 5, whatever it is. So, like, yeah, it's a humongous advantage, gargantuan advantage. But again, I mean, the only people that say it's not an advantage are people that just want to illuminate how impossibly dumb, how stupid they are. They've never played football. They've never coached football. I don't even know if they've watched football. They definitely don't understand football if they can say that. So I'm just telling you, like, if Kirk Barton never called a play in my life outside of on Madden, if I could go out there and I knew exactly what the defense was doing, if I knew what coverage they're in, if I knew what blitz they were running, if I even just knew if they were blitzing or not, that is a gargantuan advantage for me when I'm calling plays. Gargantuan, And again, those guys were so sophisticated picking their signs, like, they could say, hey, it's a corner blitz. So, throw a hot or whatever. I mean, run away from it. I mean, there's a million like little antidotes you can do, but again, that's just for me. But this is a real neat. This is a little TC Caffey love. This is a nice little play here. I'm gonna toss this right quick. So this is a 7-man protection. It starts, the play is a little choppy. But it's basically they pull the guard here and he's on the edge. And when you pull the guard on a pass, it gets the safeties, it gets the linebackers to think it's a run. You got your tight end here on the backside, and then you've got your running back there on the edge, right? So it's a 3-man route. And these guys are running their little deals up here and here, and but you've got this all mucked up. So you got the 4 guys all mucked up on the inside, and TC Caffey does a great job here because he has nothing to do. So he has basically no work because he's dropping into his zone, and so this is a good little concept where he just leaks out and he gives the QB his eyes, and it's just this is a 5-yard throw. Like this is like a throw that guys with a beer in their hand in the tailgate lock can make this throw and catch, and again, this is just a simple little deal, and you end up getting 9-10 yards. I mean, it's so that is a shot where they're looking for when you're on a 7-man protection, you're trying to throw it deep. I mean, you're trying to be able to pick everything up and then double team the guys that are, if there's got a good pass rush, you can put 2 guys on them, and you're trying to throw it deep. But if it's covered, if they're dropping and it was covered, you can take a nice little outlet like that. And I think that's something that Chip's going to do, because in my dream, every night I pray to God that we use Trey Henderson the way Sean Payton used Alvin Kamara in his prime, where they would split him out. In the way that the Lions, when the Lions really got cooking with Jahmyr Gibbs, they'd throw him the ball. They'd get him out in space. They'd let him run option routes. Because again, Trey's a 4-3-ish type running back, 4-4-0, 4-3-8-ish type guy. So put him in the slot and let him run some routes versus some hapless linebacker. Especially if you've got 2 running.
That's JJ McCarthy speed.
It is JJ McCarthy 4-2. It's a running joke on our message board because somebody said that they thought, what did they think he would run under a 4-4? Like he'd run like a 4-3-9? Like JJ McCarthy?
They claim, Michigan fans would claim that he has 4.4 flat speed, and I was like, I'll bet anybody any amount of money in the world that JJ McCarthy cannot run a 4.4 flat 40. And I got no takers, but I digress.
Yeah. Of course not. Of course not. I'm going to do one more because I like this, and then I'll get out of here. But this is another thing that I think is really good. When you get the linebacker up in the line, a lot of times it triggers for him to get treated like he's a defensive tackle. So the offensive line in general has to honor him. Here, if the back is in, you're still just going to keep him man, and then these guys would slide here. But they're showing pressure, but then they bail out. But this is a good scenario where they're dropping, they're dropping into their zones. We only have a 4-man rush here, but this is an instance where in a perfect scenario, when you see this, if you're the quarterback, just go there. But he climbs, and again, we hold the ball for too long. I mean, this is good by the guard. You got a double here, you're singled up here. Everything's clean, but I mean, the quarterback has to, do something. I mean, like at this point, if he's eyes on him, like just go there and just slide. Like take all this. This is what I call, this is free money. That is free money right there. So it's like, when he's here, this is the guy that can get you. Just, go in here and just slide. And again, this is something that you want to go win championships. Like this sack right here is, and again, he's got a black jersey on, but screw it. I mean, I'd go get it. But I mean, this protection is fantastic. I don't know what else you need when the guy holds on the ball for an hour, but and again, it's 3rd and 7. So it's 3rd and 7. The line of scrimmage is right here, and so you got to get to here. So if you sit here, and I know he's waiting for an hour, but he can. I mean, it's a first down. So again, we talk all the time about running the quarterback, but that's what it is. I mean, when they're going to play that coverage and there's a mountain of green grass in front of you and free money, like you just got to go take it. And again, that's something that we got to get better at. I'm thinking Chip will be helping with that. But in terms of some lineups and concepts that you think we will see, I'm really interested to see if they put JT inside more as a pass rusher, or even Jack. I mean, I think either of those guys, you put those guys against guards, because I think that they're bigger than Caden. Caden's light. I don't know if Caden can go inside, but I think you got to figure out a way to get Caden, Kenyatta, Jack, and JT on the field on 3rd down. I know they called it the rush man package back in the day when we had like Sam Hubbard and Ty. We had like 4 defensive ends, Nick Bosa. And we had like 4 DNs that were just unbelievably good. Draymond. It was insane what kind of lineup we put into pass rush, but it'll be interesting to see if we do something like that going forward. I think the 2 running back thing would be interesting, especially if you line them both up in the backfield and then you motion one out and put them in the slot and have them run routes, especially Trey. Because again, I think that's like when you've got these teams that have 2 good running backs, like the Lions or like the Saints used to have when they had Kamara and whoever the big back was. I think that's a hard cover, because if you got 2 backs in the game, I mean, it's hard. I mean, they can still go nickel, but if they're heavier and they think you're going to run it with 2 backs in the game, then, all of a sudden you put a guy out in the slot and you can get a really nice matchup advantage, in my opinion. And so, I think in X's and O's wise, I just think shots, play action. But I think our running game is going to be it's going to be way better. Like, I mean, I hope we never run that stretch play into the boundary again, because that's the worst play of all time. And it just never works. But I also think that our running game is going to be better because the line's going to be better. And, I think that you're going to have more diversity. And the number one thing in the entire universe is I know that we're going to run the quarterback. I was told by a very good source that Ryan Day has seen the light. And this year, with all the marbles for all the marbles, Will Howard, get ready to run, baby. So, any thoughts on that, Nevada? We'll move on to the next shot.
No, I've long felt that the running game in general and the offensive line in particular have been hampered by poor scheme, unwillingness to run the quarterback, and too much predictability. And I think all of that goes away this year. And then all those things are going to be fixed like magic. And people will go, wow, they're looking way better. And I'm like, yeah, it's magical. I'm predicting it.
Because our scheme doesn't suck anymore.
Exactly. For great passing scheme, just terrible running up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, when you don't run the quarterback, again, I say it's like, it'd be like if we had an NBA team, if we were like fans, if the Ohio State Buckeyes were an NBA franchise and for some reason we didn't shoot 3-pointers. We just did it the hard. We tried to win games the hard. Every other team is like, just dialing up threes and lighting the nets on fire. And we're just like, nah, we're not going to shoot threes. We're going to be the one team that doesn't, that doesn't do what everybody else in the world does. Because everyone else in the world runs the quarterback. Alabama does, Michigan does, but we don't, because I guess we're like smarter than everybody else. But I think that's changing finally, because we're done like smelling our own farts on offense. We're actually going to do what makes our lives way easier. So I think our average yards per carry is going to skyrocket this year. Blue Wolverine, thank you for the 10. Kirk, did you listen to pump up music for the game when you played? If so, what was your go-to song artist? Ooh, that is a great question. I loved Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight. That was always a classic. I'd listen to the Any Given Sunday speech because that's a classic. I liked Disturbed, Down with the Sickness. I liked Korn. God, I listened to some like really awful, ratchet, angry music because you got to kind of get to this like really bad state when you go play football. Like it's not a happy-go-lucky game. Like it's not, everyone in the stands is up there eating, ding dongs and eating hot dogs and nachos and watching the band, march around and stuff. Like when you're getting ready to play, man, it's a different world, man. I mean, you're getting ready to go and if you have a bad game, you could be remembered forever. If you lose a game, you could be remembered in a very bad way. So, it's a big party for everybody except for the 150 people in the locker room. For those people, it's life and death, literally. Because when you lose a game at Ohio State, man, it's people lose their jobs, people get forced to transfer. It can impact NFL career potential. Like it's heavy. But again, I liked it because again, it's see who's made for it. That's why I laugh like when people are critical sometimes of the kids or they're critical of there's people say like dumb stuff about me and I'm like, you guys wouldn't even make it out of the tunnel. You guys would fold and be terrified and be scared to death to even come out of the tunnel to go see some of the guys that we had to go against. So, again, I loved it. I still, I mean, you guys work out, you guys go biking or hiking or running or whatever, and you lift in the gym. And, I think music is, obviously really important. It just keeps your mind nice and where it needs to be. But Yeah, those are my go-tos. And again, it was different back then because now Urban they blast rap music the whole time. They've got speakers in there and it's deafening. Like with Trussell, like we didn't play any music in the locker room because everyone had headphones, so everyone's listening to the music they want to anyways. But Urban bought these big speakers and they were, I mean, it was like I mean, I couldn't wait to get out of the locker room because it was literally like deafening music for like 2 hours before the game. So, but yeah. Nevada, do you have any pump up songs that you listen to when you're getting ready to walk the Strand with a coffee bean?
Never gonna let you down. Never gonna little Rick Astley or something like that. You know, it's like go with that little pump up music or something like that.
The
Little
the
aha.
the
Save
Bengals.
on me. Oh, the Bengals. Oh, walk like an Egyptian.
There you go. Hey,
Yeah, yeah.
your boys Team USA scored on a penalty kick. Your favorite play?
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, it's 1-1. So they're hanging in there, man. They got smoked by Colombia the other day, so they're hanging in there a little bit better tonight versus the Brazilians. It's halftime.
Was it a penalty? I don't see penalty on there, but maybe it was.
Maybe it was the penalty. I think it was just a free kick. My bad.
Yeah, okay.
It was a free kick. They were lined up. He kicked over. I get my terminology down, but yeah, it was like they kick it right in front of the goal, and the guys are all lined up, with the hands in front of their balls so they don't get hit.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, whatever. It was. I don't even know how that happens. What is it? Is it like a tackle or a yellow card or something? They got to kick it from there. Is that how you get one of those?
Somebody was naughty. Somebody was naughty. Somebody was cheating.
Someone's being a bad person. Larry Daniels, thank you for the 5. I think for an ultra member as well. And the way we are filling the QB room is one solid season with the Buckeyes enough to propel a QB into the league. Yes. And we saw with Haskins. He was here for 1 year and gonzo. So, I mean, CJ did too. I think Will Howard will get drafted next year. I mean, if he can throw it good. I mean, he's a big dude. He's gonna have great skill. I think that I mean, in college football, man, if one season when you're draft eligible can change your life. I mean, look at Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow was an undrafted free agent going into his senior year, maybe a 7th round pick, and that's his dad. His dad said that to us. And then he took the limitless pill and had the greatest season in the history of college football. So you look at like Cam Newton. Like Cam Newton, was at Blinn Junior College and it was okay. But then he goes to Auburn and he had maybe the second greatest college football season ever. He was unbelievable in 10. He goes first overall. So, a quarterback, man, if you have that 1 year, Joe Flacco, Josh Allen, it's not like we heard about those guys for 4 years. They had one big year, and then you go hit the scene, you go hit the Senior Bowl, and you go throw good at the combine and pro day. Then, if you're a quarterback, GMs are desperate, and GMs are also impossibly stupid. Even the smartest guys in the world, like John Lynch and Shanahan, like they took Trey Lance 3rd overall, and he played one game his last season. One game because of the COVID thing. I mean, like in 1AA, they didn't even play at all. So impossibly stupid. But yeah, if you have 1 year and Ryan Day recommends you, because the thing about Ryan's very honest to these GMs. He's not always, he's not always Mr. Cuddly Bear when it comes to dealing with these players. I mean, he's very honest. And so are other guys. There's some guys in the Woody that they absolutely destroy guys to these NFL people, and I honestly think that's shameful. But that's their MO because they're trying to climb the ladder potentially in the NFL and keep their, they want their evaluations and opinions to be valued in NFL circles in case they ever need to apply for a job elsewhere because they get fired at Ohio State. So they trash kids sometimes. So and that's unfortunate, but again, it is what it is. Nevada, Larry Daniels, again, thank you for the 5. Thanks for being an ultra member. My friend, he says, the way we're filling the QB room up is one solid season with the Buckeyes enough to propel a QB into the National Football League.
Absolutely. And with the transfer portal, that's going to become more and more common because, you're going to have kids that basically were in situations that were suboptimal, that are moving to, I mean, you look at Bo Nix. Bo Nix had 2 years, but yeah, I mean, Auburn couldn't wait to get rid of that kid. And then he comes there, Michael Penix at Washington. So you're going to see more and more of this where kids are going from situations where they've got less talent. They're asked to do more. They're being asked to play with, inferior guys to throw into smaller windows, do whatever. And then they go to a big time program. They finally get coached up. They're put into a more quarterback friendly type of system. They're playing with great players, great wide receivers, great tight ends, great offensive linemen, um, and they shine. And I think that's going to become. Um, I won't say it's the rule, but it's certainly not going to be exceptional anymore because I think more and more kids are viewing their first few years in college as developmental, and the bigger colleges are going to grab them when they're in a position to make a move and make a run towards the national championship. And that's exactly what Will Howard is going to take a huge step forward. Not that he isn't already a really good quarterback. He's already a really, and this you're talking about a guy that won the Big 12 at Kansas State. Won the Big 12 at Kansas State. And now he's coming to run the Ohio State offense. I mean, he'll be a Heisman finalist. He'll be a draft pick. And if J.J. McCarthy can be a top of the first round draft pick, you cannot convince me that Will Howard can't be a top of the first round draft pick. And I believe that. I believe that with every fiber in my being. I think Will Howard is going to have a monster season. And we're going to look back on this and kind of giggle about how people had doubts about Chip Kelly, about Ryan Day, and about Will Howard in this QB friendly system because I think he's going to put up monster numbers. And if I'm wrong on that, you guys can all laugh and heckle Nevadabuck on that. But I'm not wrong on that one. I'm just telling you, Will Howard's going to have a monster year.
Well, I mean, it's like if this was last year, I mean, and I said, hey, Bo Nix, I'll give you the draft odds. Bo Nix and Michael Penix are both going to be top 15 picks in the National Football League draft. Like, are you taking that? I'm not taking that. There ain't no way. Bo Nix in the top 15 of the NFL. I mean, I mean, Penix top 10, like top 10, really? I mean, I don't know. I mean, Will Howard. I know that Josh Allen is the comp, and I know Josh Allen is probably a little bit more accurate, but Josh Allen wasn't some proven, smooth commodity when he got to the league. I mean, he ended up getting drafted behind a couple guys that he shouldn't have been drafted behind. But it'll be interesting to see what he does with the talent and the coaching he's going to have, because I think that that's going to be a huge adjustment. It's kind of like when Braxton went from the guys, after Tressel got fired and he had that year, and then Urban came in and with Tom Herman and coached him, and Braxton became the MVP of the Big Ten. So I think that that's all important, like the coaching, the scheme, the players, the whole nine. Mark, thank you for the 10-point spread, barely adjusted. Michigan was 6-2 versus the spread after the scheme was public, not a big advantage. That I think was a huge advantage. Now down the stretch, did they beat us? Sure. Did they beat Penn State? Sure. The Big Ten championship was always a joke. They get to play like Iowa, who stinks, and then or Purdue, whoever they played. I mean, it was just like a joke. And then playoffs. I mean, they beat Bama. I'll give them that. Barn burner. Bama played a terrible play call at the end of the game. And then they overwhelmed the Washington team that frankly didn't have really any business being in it. They won a lot, but defensively they were so bad that it was kind of like the perfect storm. It was kind of like when we played Oregon in 14, and like it just knew defensively they wouldn't hold up versus a power running game. So I think it was a huge advantage. I think it's silly to say anything otherwise, but that's my opinion. And again, there's a reason why the hammer of God is going to come down on these guys. It's not because it's not a big advantage. And again, there's a reason why all these coaches like Greg Schiano, James Franklin, these guys are all really upset about it. Like the athletic directors are really upset about it. It's not because it's just some small, golly gee whiz, oops, we're doing. This was a major, major deal. And again, anyone that can't see that, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it to you guys. Like, again, you guys must never play any sort of, you guys have never played cards before. You guys, I mean, have you guys ever seen any of these like things where guys count cards and they get, arrested and thrown in jail? And, if you cheat at something like that, where the probability and the odds that something's coming, like that's the biggest advantage you can get in life anywhere, whether it's gambling or sports or, again, like look at the Houston Astros when they were tipping the pitches. Like, was that an advantage? Well, I mean, they won the World Series. Yeah, magically, it's like, oh, hey, I know it's a fastball, or I know it's a slider, or I know it's whatever. Like, huge advantage, and they smashed the Astros because they were cheating. Why? Because they were telling the hitters what was coming. They're banging on the garbage bins or whatever they're doing. So But again, that's why did Bill Belichick get smoked in Spygate? Because there was a huge advantage. Why did Bill Belichick do that? Because there was a huge advantage. The greatest coach in the history of football got busted for cheating, for spying. Why? Because it's a huge advantage. He didn't just do it because he's like, oh well, we've got these extra camcorders laying around. I might as well go point them at the team sidelines. I mean, again, like we're going to that Georgia game down in the Atlanta, and they send. Here's the thing, like Ohio State sends C.J. Barnett and they send all the little Geppettos to go walk around the suite areas to sweep it and look for cameras, and they found one. They found a camera with a tripod that was pointed right at the field. So why did I mean if it's not a big deal, then why does Ohio State send guys when they do a Thursday practice at the Atlanta Mercedes-Benz Dome? Why do they do that? Is it because Ohio? It's no big if they get our signals. It's no big deal. If they know our plays and they can tie it to our guys signaling it on something, it's no big deal. I mean, Ohio State sends their staff up to search for cameras, so they think it's a big deal. So I think it's a big deal. But Nevada. Mark, again, thank you for the 10. He says, point spread barely adjusted, and Michigan was 6-2 versus a spread after the scheme was public. Not a big advantage. No words, but I'll let you have some.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you went through a lot of great reasons why you can point to advantage, but the biggest one was the fact that this lowly staffer from Michigan somehow had sideline access in real time to the offensive and defensive coordinators and head coach at Michigan. So you're talking about a guy, and we've talked about this before, but try it sometime. Try go up to Ryan Day and try to talk to him, or to Jim Knowles during a game, and and try to talk to him and see how far you get without getting tased and pepper sprayed and like thrown out of the building. This lower level staffer has got the ear. He's standing right next to him doing it. That's how important this information was to the coordinators at Michigan. They gave him access to them right next to him in real time. And that's not, Buckeye Scoop hyperbole. That's not a story. That's not urban legend. That's on film. Just go watch the games. Look where he was situated. He was right on their shoulders. So that's how important they felt it was. They felt it was so important that they wanted to be interrupted in real time during games for this particular piece of information. That, I mean, to me, that's the end. There's no more discussion at that point, because there's no more prized possession than having access to the coordinators in real time during the biggest games of their life, of their entire organization's history, and that this is the guy that's right there telling them what's going on. That's how important Michigan felt it was.
Yeah, like I said, make me the defensive play caller and tell me it's a run to the right. I'll stop it every time. Again, James Franklin. Again, I wish I had this clip, but he had this excellent clip where he's on. He's talking about big advantage, whatever, and he was talking about like sometimes you're in the game, and he talked about how it was a short yardage play, and they decided they were going to take a shot. So they're in heavy personnel, which is like 3 tight ends, maybe a fullback, something like it's like a really big set where you think you're going to run it up the middle and try to get 1 yard. And it's a play action pass, a shot play, which is you're going to throw it deep down the field to try to catch them, cheating to stop the short run. And they happen to be in cover 2. They happen to be 2 deep safeties, which you would never do that versus that formation. You want everyone down to the box to try to stop the run. So he talked about that like in his press conference, like sometimes like you just wonder, like when you're calling a very unorthodox game and there's no real tells and you're breaking tendencies and you happen to get to that critical moment and it's 3rd and 1 or whatever, and you're in a heavy formation and you decide to throw it, which you normally don't do out of that formation, and they have 2 deep safeties. They were in cover 2. It's like, that's when he's like, something's up, because like nobody in their right mind would ever play cover 2 versus like a heavy set goal line type formation, but Michigan did, because they knew it was coming and they stopped it. And again, that's I mean, you still got to go stop it. I get that. I know there's that critical. You still got to stop it, even if they know it's coming. But I'm like, if I know something's coming, there's no chance. Like, I mean, when I played right tackle at Ohio State, if you tell me a cornerback blitz is coming before the game or before the play, like that's never going to beat me. Like no corner is ever going to get a sack on me in a billion years. Now, if I don't see it, that's the only way a corner blitz works is if the guy doesn't see it and he just zooms past the tackle and knocks the quarterback out. So, but again, that's just facts. We live it. Um, D Sunny, thank you for the 5. Can defenses be designed to let a high level safety or linebacker just roam free and make plays? How often does that happen? Well, anything is possible if you have the right players. If you have the right players, right scheme. I mean, Wade Phillips, who is still coaching, he's like 90 years old. He's coaching in the XF, USFL, whatever it's called now. With Von Miller, when he had Von like at his zenith, when he was the best defensive player in the NFL, I mean, he basically had defense where it was like Von, do whatever you want, and then he would tell the linebacker and the safety who were behind him, whatever he does, you got to feel opposite. So if he goes inside, you go outside. Goes outside, you go in. I mean, you cover whatever gap he wants. He gets to completely freelance. So yeah, I mean, there's ways to do that. I don't know if we have a guy that would do that. Maybe Caleb Downs. But you see it all the time. If you have like a rare special dude, like Troy Polamalu would drive Mike Tomlin crazy because he would just kind of freelance, do whatever he wanted. It was funny. I was at a Steelers banquet about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, and they talked about that, how they'd call some cover 3 or whatever, and Troy would run up to the line, then he'd sprint to center field, or he'd come to the line, he'd blitz on his own, and it just used to drive Tomlin crazy. But if you have the right guys, then I think it works out. Nevada, D. Sunny says, again, thank you for 5. Can defense be designed to let a high-level safety or linebacker just roam free and make plays? How often does that happen?
Well, I mean, Andy Katzenmoyer. His freshman year was pretty much roaming around out there. And, they famously talked about that they would just kind of let him do his thing and let his athleticism kind of take care of itself. But it's rare. So much of modern defense right now is filling gaps, and this guy goes to the A gap, this guy goes to the B gap, this guy goes. I mean, it's very very regimented. It's almost like playing blackjack, where you're playing blackjack and everything is by the book. If I have a 5 against the dealer's got a 3, I'm hitting or I'm staying. There's a book. They've run it all. You know what it's supposed to do. Same thing on defense. The guy goes inside, you go outside. This guy presses, you hold the guy at the point of time. I mean, everything is just kind of there, and the great defenses can just kind of respond in terms of doing it. So there's less and less of this, but it's fun when it happens. Like you said, Troy Polamalu was very famous about doing that. But I don't think there's a lot of freelancing, not a lot of that see ball get ball stuff anymore with Jim Knowles and his defense. It's all pretty much by the numbers.
And I think that's how I want my defense to be constricted and fundamental sound. Because again, you look at Washington, I watched them on tape, and they were so unsound. Like, I mean, I'm like the 2 guys in the same gap, and all stuff where I'm just like, when you go against a sound running team like Michigan, they're going to get absolutely pulverized, and they did. They gave up 300 yards on the ground because they weren't in their gaps. They weren't gap sound. I want Jim Knowles runs the defense. I want it to run, guys, a lot of effort, run to the ball, stay in your gaps, do your job. Because as soon as you start freelancing, you're going to get shredded. You're going to get broken. It is what it is. I mean, defense, it's about sound, fundamental football, staying in your gaps, doing your thing. So yeah, I don't know how much we'll see that. Because it doesn't seem like it's not that it's bad that it's not in Jim Knowles' deal, but I think that it's something that, when you're when you're the second best defense in the country, why on earth would you change anything? And I think it's all about, doing your job and being constricted. ZZM, thank you for being an Ultra member, and thank you for the 5, my friend. Somebody say Howard's only slightly better than McCord. Well, I miss Kyle McCord winning a conference championship. I never saw that. And again, I don't know. Like I said, you don't have to take my opinion for anything. Ryan Day literally went out, and the money he could have gave Kyle McCord, he literally punted Kyle McCord to the ether, to Syracuse, and he went out and got hard. And again, if Kyle McCord was, fantastic, why didn't anybody want him? Nebraska didn't want him. I mean, he ends up at Syracuse, which was they lost 45-0 in their last game they played, their bowl game. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, people lie, but numbers don't. And when you look at like his offers that he had and his this is a guy that was third team All Big Ten, and he didn't have any place to go. He left, and if he was great, I mean, SC could have had him, or Oregon could have went after him, or Oklahoma could have went after him, and none of them did. They all went elsewhere and got their quarterbacks, and he ended up at a terrible program. So that's my opinion. Kirk, how long does it take to learn a playbook? Much longer than spring practices. Nevada OH.
I owe.
I think you could learn it in a month. Pretty solid. I think it helps if you do walkthroughs, get guys on the board. I think that going out and doing it, in walkthroughs is critical, especially with young guys. I mean, when Urban showed up and we had to put in an all new offense, all new everything, all new scheme, all new verbiage, all new everything. We literally, were walking through it and we were teaching it and just kind of ad nauseum, so that when those guys hit the field in spring, they're ready to rock. So those kids were there January, February, March before we had a single spring practice, and by the time we get to spring ball, I mean they were pretty solid on the book. You got to stay on them. You stay on them nonstop until it's crazy. But there's guys in the NFL that learn playbooks in days. Like I mean, Baker Mayfield a couple years ago got cut by the Carolina Panthers, and he got claimed or he signed with the Rams, and he like signed on a Friday or a Saturday and started like a Monday night football game, or I think he might have signed on like a Monday or a Tuesday, and he started a Thursday night game or something. It was like he was there for like 2 days, and he won an NFL game at quarterback, which is like impossibly impressive. Now he's got Sean McVay, and I'm sure that they were probably telling him what to do and not running the whole offense, because that's incredible that he was able to do that. But I was, the one thing about me, man, is my rookie year, I bounced all over the NFL. I was on 5 teams my rookie year, and I was learning new playbooks every couple of weeks, and it's very difficult, especially in season, because when you get there in season, they're not slowing down to install stuff. Like that's what training camp's for. That's what the summer OTA stuff is for. And OTA is an organized team activity, which is basically like a summer practice. But yeah, I mean, you can learn it in a month easily, especially if you've got good teachers, and I think that that's the way to go. Nevada's ECM, again, thank you for the being an ultra member. Thank you for the 5. So many say Will Howard is only slightly better than Kyle McCord, but Kirk, how long does it take to learn a playbook? Much longer than spring practices. Love your thoughts on this, Nevada.
I mean, like you said, Will Howard was coveted by Lincoln Riley and Ryan Day. Is like their number one target of the transfer portal. Those guys know a little bit about quarterback thing. Secondly, you can learn the system. The coaches can have more direct contact with players than they've ever been able to. They've kind of liberalized those rules. That's a huge advantage. We've talked about helmet communications, how that's going to revolutionize things as well. How you can have direct communication with your coordinator up to the time of the ball snapped, or 15 seconds is left in the play clock, whichever sooner. So, I mean, there's lots of things that you can do to kind of give a quarterback a help and assistance, and he's going to have Ryan Day and Chip Kelly to have him do it. And Will's a smart kid. And he's going to be way better than Kyle McCord. Way better than Kyle McCord. And I'm not just wait till you see the offense run when you've got a quarterback, a big hoss like Josh Allen out there running the ball. The offense, playing quarterback in modern college football is not just about throwing the football. And that's the thing that I think the fans miss. It's like, well, let's look at the passing stats. I'm like, yeah, they'll do that when they evaluate, JT Barrett, and they'll ignore his 3,000 career rushing yards or 50 rushing touchdowns. It's like, you have to look at the whole package when you're looking at quarterback play. And, he'll be at least as an effective passer and an exponentially better runner. And so the offense is going to magically get better. Watch. I'm willing to bet on that. And I think Will Howard's going to be a fan favorite by the end of the year for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you took Tebow's rushing stats off of his existence, like, I mean, he's the all-time leading touchdown scorer in the history of the SEC, like more than Herschel Walker or Mark Ingram or any. I mean, it's got to be the whole package. And again, I think that's why I'm excited to see what we can do with Will Howard, because I think that it's going to add a whole new level to what we can do on offense. Mark, thank you for the 5. Nevadabuck asked Billy Walters if it is a big advantage. 1 to 2 points max a game. That's it. Betting markets over coaches' opinions. Nevada, you want to take that? Because I don't know, Billy, but I know you do. Oh,
Yeah, it's. I mean, again, it's just you look at Michigan. Look at JJ McCarthy's performance, before, and look at JJ McCarthy's performance afterwards, and um, I I completely disagree. This was not a huge advantage in terms of you know you know direct action on the field, and the coaches felt that way. The Big Ten committee felt that way, and there's no gambler in the world. Like, you can get anybody to say anything. I've had people sit there with a straight face and tell me night games don't matter, home games don't matter, weather doesn't matter, and those are just people that want to say stuff, and I just think it's stupid. All that stuff matters. So, do I think knowing what plays were being run? Yeah, I mean, there's varying degrees of it. If you just say, hey, knowing somebody else's signals, what's the advantage on that? Not sure. To the extent that Michigan went, the multi-year cheating, it's the largest on-field cheating scandal in the history of college football. Did it provide an advantage? Absolutely. And I don't know what Billy's particular quotes would be on this, but I'd have to know the context, because I can tell you, if Billy wants to bet any time where I have one team and I get to know the plays and Billy's team doesn't know the plays, then I'm down for all that action. I'll take all of Billy's money on that. I don't. And Billy's one of the smartest guys I've ever met. So I guarantee you that he wouldn't take that. He wouldn't take that side. So no, Billy's way too shrewd for that. So no, huge advantage. Nobody will ever convince me otherwise.
yeah. I mean, I can't believe that Billy would say that either. I mean, that's like,
I
you
don't.
said,
I don't believe. I don't
two
know the
points on a
context.
team that
No.
knows everything that's coming. I was like, that's only worth 1 point. I was like, I don't know. I mean, and like you make a great point about the home and away games. I'm like, for the life of me, because again, I study these gambling lines like crazy. I'm like, I can't understand why the Edmonton Oilers are favored, and other than it's just they're at home. Florida's house in the last 2 games. The Mavericks are favored. The Celtics are 2-0. Beat them pretty decently. I know Porzingis is out, but the 2 home teams are the 2 favorites in the finals over the next 2 nights. So it's like, gotta matters a little bit. I mean, that's why like when people that say that like home and away doesn't matter, I think that's insane. I mean, I played football. It's like, dude, being at home is a huge edge, huge. The crowd noise is different. The travel is different. The amount of rest you get is different. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think that's why like when you look at it, and again, not all home field advantages are created equal, but when you say, okay, do you want to play a noon game at home versus like a night game at LSU, like you don't think that matters? Like, are you crazy? Like a night game at Penn State, like you don't think that matters? Like, that's nuts. But just my opinion. I mean, I've lived it, and I know that night games on the road in the Big Ten are very tough. Um, Lee, thank you for the 10. I know we haven't seen JJ play his freshman year yet, but if you're a coach, which true freshman would you pick for your team, Garrett Wilson or JJ Smith? I'm taking JJ any day of the week. I think JJ is, I think he's the best receiver on the team. He's probably the best receiver in the country already. It's funny. I've been calling him Julio Jones for like 2 years now. And now that's what the national pundits are calling him. They're calling him Julio because I was like, that's what he looks like. Like physically, he looks like he's a 22-year-old Pro Bowl wide receiver in an 18-year-old's body. And he's just so locked in. I mean, he's just all football. He doesn't go out. He doesn't kick it. All he does is work out, jugs machine, take care of his body. I mean, he acts like Marvin. They're both quiet guys, keep themselves, work like crazy. And JJ can fly. I mean, JJ's got wheels. So I'm taking JJ over probably any freshman receiver in Ohio State history. I think that's pretty easy to say. But what are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, JJ's just different, guys. I'm just telling you. Like, if Terrell Pryor was a wide receiver, or you heard us talking about Torrance Gibson with kind of the
Yep.
reverent tones about what a super. That's what you're getting. You're getting Terrell Pryor and Torrance Gibson type of athleticism without any of the baggage.
Yep.
And like you said, if those guys were just completely focused on being a football player, on being a wide receiver, on being the best at your craft, that's what you're going to see with JJ Smith. Um, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be jaw dropping for the players that are playing against him. The players know who the players are, and all the
Hmm.
players. Man, there's not a single upperclassman that is like, that guy's all hype. That guy's all good.
Yeah.
They have mad respect for JJ. So yeah, he's going to be really good. I'm riding with JJ on that one.
Yeah, and I mean, I've talked to guys for years about JJ, but then like when Jim Knowles, who's 70 years old crusty guy, has been around forever. Like when he says that JJ might be the best player on the team, like there were some comments this spring that were as shocking as I've ever heard at Ohio State. Like when Ryan Day said that Julian State needs to be ready to go against Oregon, that raised both my eyebrows almost to the roof of my house. When Jim Knowles said that JJ might be the best player on the team, that raised my eyebrows pretty high. But hey, I mean, freshmen are built different, and I mean those two are. I mean, you got Julio Jones and Aaron Rodgers basically on your campus, and they're doing something right. If you're saying that kind of stuff, because like Ryan didn't need to say that, but he did. He said it to a full group of media. So, when you got that QB controversy, I mean, he just threw like a giant thing of jet fuel on top of it to get that thing cooking nice and hot. But yeah, I'm taking JJ over anybody at this point. And I think that the whole world's gonna know him after week 1 versus Akron. D Sunny, thank you for the 5. My friends from Michigan usually break the news to me when Ohio State has a decommitment. I think Michigan fans care more about us than success because they're haters. Well, I mean, I don't know how many decommitments we've had where, we've been like, oh my god, how are we ever going to survive? Like, I mean, the biggest decommitment we've had in the last like probably year and a half was Dylan Raiola, and all we did was go out and get Julian Sand to replace him. So, I take Julian Sand over Dylan Raiola anyways. And I think Dylan Raiola is a good player, could have a really nice career at Nebraska with Rule, but a lot of these kids that decommit from Ohio State is because we stop recruiting them. We kind of ask them to look elsewhere and find a new home because we've upgraded the caliber of kid that can commit. So, and that's a hard part. I mean, we did that with Mark Nave, and those, that's hard on me because I know how excited a kid like Mark Nave had to have been to commit to Ohio State. And I'm sure that his family was excited and he dreamed of being a Buckeye. And then for them to pull the rug out from under him, I think it's sad. I think it's crooked. I think it's but it's big time college football. I mean, it's ugly, but I think if you can help a kid find a place before he gets here and he clearly can't do it and he's got to hit the portal after a year, I think it's better for him to just go elsewhere. It's kind of like a preemptive move. So that's just my opinion. D Sunny, thank you for the 5. My friends from Michigan usually break the news to me when I say it as a decommitment. I think Michigan fans care more about us than success haters. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, if you're a Michigan fan, it's all over. I mean,
Yeah.
everything that's good for you about football is over. It ended last year. The Harbaugh experience ended. You got your national championship, and now all you're looking out forward is you just see terrible recruiting, inexperienced staff. A peak of 9-3, probably 7-5, and then downhill from there. So yeah, all you can do at this time is kind of whistle past the graveyard. Try to look at try to declare victory whenever Ohio State loses the low-level assistant to the traveling secretary in charge of Gatorade, and you try to claim that as some great victory or something like that. That's kind of where the Michigan fans are right now, and it's kind of hysterical, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and like 99.9% of the people that follow Ohio State, you can't even name our operations director. Like, if you're the hardcore of the hardcore, you know who Quinn Temple is, Brian Voltellini. But like, they literally book the hotels, they order the food, they make sure that the paperclip dispensers are filled up, and we've got ink in the printer. And I mean, it's a hard job because you have a lot of stuff to do, but it's all like busy work, But if we lost our operations director today, and we brought in some other dude, he'd be up to speed in a couple weeks, and nobody would ever be able to tell the difference. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
we've
let me
lost.
ask you a question though. Would you have anybody in your recruiting department that had direct ties to
No,
Michigan, that had like a sibling working at Michigan?
No,
Would that
that's
ever
that,
happen?
that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I didn't know any of that. I didn't know that like Erin had her family, her sister played basketball at Michigan. She works at Michigan. Her whole family loves Michigan. Like, because again, like there has to be a point in your head where, and again, like it's just human nature. Like, if you could get offered a job at Michigan and all of a sudden you get to work on the same campus as your sister and you get a chance, your Thanksgivings and Christmases can all be spent in Ann Arbor and your parents can come up and see everybody in one big happy home. And, like, I mean, you got to think that if they ever got offered that job, they'd take it. And guess what? She got offered that job. And again, like she's been negotiating with them, background check, interviews, all in the cloak of darkness while she's been in the Woody Hayes, full access to everything, full access to all of our film and whatever. And again, I don't know if she's even smart enough to do any of that stuff, but Tony Alford could have been. I mean, Tony Alford, like if he was getting ready to leave him, he could have downloaded our entire hard drive. It's not that hard to do. It would take a little bit of time, but I mean, you could take the whole thing with you. And every coach who's ever gone through the Woody Hayes usually downloads everything before they leave. Like, I mean, every GA, you go get a 5 terabyte hard drive, you can download the whole thing in a weekend. It takes forever, but that's not an uncommon practice. That's why, you'll see these little snippets of playbooks up on Twitter and you can Google Ohio State football playbook and it's up there because it's the same file that I made and helped, fix and design and change the colors on it, whatever. So, but yeah, it's questionable. Again, I would vet these people harder. And again, there has to be a thing you put in your contract where, hey, if you leave and go to Michigan, you have to pay us all of our money back. You can go, but your buyout is whatever. Even if you're even if you're a lowly paid $100,000 employee, and $100,000 is a lot of money. So she's probably making $150, I bet, or $180 to be the operations person at Michigan. Cause that's about what Quintuple makes. Maybe he might make 200. I don't know. But I don't know. Like I mean, like I'm very, very certain that if you're the head coach at Auburn, they have a clause in your contract where you cannot leave to go to Alabama, or unless you pay like, some ungodly, $50 million buyout, some crazy number. So basically it's like a poison pill that keeps you from leaving ever. And again, if I'm Ryan Day, I'm like, look, I'm putting that in the contract. I say, hey, you guys can do whatever you want, but if you leave this place and directly go to Michigan, and again, I'm sure that there's ways around it. You could probably go to work for Akron for a month and then go to Michigan. I'm sure there'd be ways to weasel around it, but I would just say, hey, like if you're gonna go to Michigan, you got to pay us back, or if you got a 2-year non-compete where you can't work at Michigan, there's got to be some sort of a legal thing you can do. And again, I'm not sure. I'm sure I'll have attorneys write me letters saying, oh, you can't do that. But I've worked in jobs where I've had to sign 2-year non-competes, and they're very enforceable. So, just my opinion. Nevada, let's wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts?
No, just it's exciting seeing some of these skill position kids come up to Ohio State. It's exciting, looking at an 8th grader that's that good. Like I said, normally I wouldn't even consider us doing a show on them, even talking about them. But yeah, I remember when they were talking about J.J. Smith when he was a youngin', and they didn't steer us wrong on that. They're saying this could be the best quarterback they've ever had. So when they say that, gets my attention. Certainly a name I want to be watching. I'll be watching to see how he progresses through his 9th grade season down there in Florida. But remember the name. Gonna be a really good one, and probably gonna be a Buckeye.
Thank you for being a part of the show. Again, appreciate you guys each and every night. Really exciting show. Big time future coming for Ohio State's quarterback room. Very excited about that. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. If you guys want the best Ohio State coverage in all of the universe, join BuckeyeScoop.com. Our community is incredible. Very, very active. Very, very fun group of people. You guys will love it. And I look forward to hosting you guys on there. Again, if you guys love the show, Buckeye Scoop is the comprehensive Ohio State football experience. It's your concierge membership to becoming the greatest Ohio State fan who's ever lived. So I just appreciate you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.